Hey fuckers, welcome to Losing My Will to Live. Can y'all hear me okay? Am I audible? I look like I'm a little loud, so I'm gonna deafen myself a little bit. Am I audible? Can I be heard? Alright, hello DSI friend, hello Super Dark, hello Loom, hello Ghost Eye, hello everyone else that happens to be watching right now. Welcome to my never-ending misery. So, if you were here last time, you would know that, it got really depressing, but there were a lot of plot holes. And it was very disturbing to me. But anyway, as we know, Lucy's mom, Anne, has, ALS, and, there's not really much else. Oh yeah, Carl Gustav knows the engagement now, but, he had to do no, on-camera soul-searching. It just took, like, a chapter for him to be like, okay, I've changed my mind, you can marry Lucy. I certainly didn't hear you ask, can I be heard? Shut up, Lou. Anyway. What else? There's not much else I really have to say. Like, I'm streaming early because I still need to run to the store today, and the weather's been kind of miserable, so just want to get this over with so I can just get my shit. Anyway. Without further ado, I think we're on chapter 30 Uno. Yes, we are on chapter 30 Uno. Okay, let me zoom in a bit here. Man, last stream was it was very difficult, Superstar. Super Dark, not Superstar, Super Dark. Sorry. Anyway, let's read. Chapter 31. March 2, 2015. Bumfuck, Tennessee. It is in the early morning when the family finally returns home from their trip to the Mayo Clinic. Lucy is still feeling the effects of the food poisoning from the chicken in Omaha the night before. You know, the chicken the chicken they got from Longhorn Steakhouse, which is a garbage restaurant. Don't go. What does miserable weather look like when you are? Like there's a single cloud in the sky? Actually, no, it's been raining on and off all day. Like right now, it's, not raining, but it definitely has rained. A lot. They all crash as soon as they get back into their house after a very long week. Mayo Clinic never treated a black person since 1875. Lucy wakes up and calls Isak to give him the rundown of what happened at Mayo. They would return in a few months for more testing for Anne. Lucy told Isak how she hoped she was able to catch on to the Swedish language quickly in her lessons. Instead of actually telling him this, he told her that he knew she could do it, and it would make things so much easier in Sweden. All of the so-called princess classes would be beneficial. Gulf of Mexico weather bullshit. It's not much Gulf of Mexico, as more as that we just live in a coastal zone. Houston weather is always miserable. That's a fact of life. Anyway, I'm glad that they're just summarizing what happened next instead of showing us what happened next. That's what you're supposed to do in literature, right? Right? Right, gang? Ew. Lucy and her family decided they were going to take a trip to Orlando. To Orlando, I love you, Orlando. Don't know why I broke out into the Book of Mormon song right then and there, but, I own it. The family would fly to make it easier on Anne. Anne, who was terrified of flying, finally relented because she knew she was not able to make a 12-hour drive to the Sunshine State. More like the state we want to secede. They would spend 10 days in Florida going to Disney World and Universal Studios! Lucy and Will rode all of the roller coasters while their parents waited. After riding Dueling Dragons in the J.K. Rowling turf section, they found their father looking downcast. It's called economic storytelling. What's wrong, Dad? Will asked. Oh wait, no, it's Will. What's wrong, Dad? Will asked. We need to go back to the hotel. I know you all have only been on 3 rides today. Even though in the previous paragraph it said they rode all of the roller coasters. Also, bit of a nitpick, but the Harry Potter section roller coaster is not named Dueling Dragons, it's named Dragon Challenge. And I'll prove it to you. Well, ask it. He asked to his father. It's called Dragon Challenge, was a pair of intertwined inverted roller coasters known as Dueling Dragons from 1999 to 2010. It has since been closed. So you can ride on a motorbike now. Okay. But your mother isn't doing well. The heat is really getting to her, he replied. Both kids understood, and they went to find their mother in the shade. She looked worn out and winded. They knew going back to the hotel was the only option. It really bothered Lucy, and she struggled to not to break down into tears. She knew how serious her mother's illness was, and it was playing havoc on her mind. They enjoyed the remainder of their trip and returned home before traveling back to Minnesota at the end of May. The descriptions are just leaping off the screen. I feel like I'm really there. May 18, 2015, Mayo Clinic. The family arrives at a small flight at the Rochester, Minnesota airport. They head to their hotel and then get some dinner before they took Anne for more testing and appointments. They would only spend 2 nights in the town this trip. The next day, Anne met with doctors and speech therapists before having another meeting with her neurologist, Dr. Josephs, who happens to be a Florida Gator stan. Late that afternoon, he came into the room and spoke about the results. Mrs. Kingston, you have what we call spastic dysarthria. It's most commonly called bulbar ALS, but we at the Mayo Clinic don't call it that, as we've not had enough research to feel comfortable with the term. Unfortunately, there is no treatment. We could put you in therapy to help you learn to deal with the disease and to chew and swallow. However, there will come a time when eating will not be possible. You will end up with a feeding tube, if you choose, and later a breathing tube, as well. It would be good for you to take a DNA test to see if you might have the gene for the disease. However, that is up to you. I am so truly sorry I have to tell you all this. I wish I could do more. I wish we could do more. Super Dark, is there even a Mayo Clinic in Israel? I've never been to the Mayo Clinic before. Yeah, there is no Mayo Clinic in Houston. The family sit there in shock and sadness. Lucy was using all her strength to not scream at the doctor that he was wrong and her mother couldn't be dying. He turned to Lucy and Will and said, as her children, you all should consider taking a DNA test to see if you have the gene. This will help with research and allow you both to know your possibility of developing the disease later on. You do not have to make the decision immediately, but it is something you should consider. Will agreed to the test almost automatically. Almost immediately, Crystal Smith. It's almost immediately. Lucy elected to think about it overnight. Not long after their dinner, Lucy told her parents and brother, I will not take the DNA test. I don't want to know. If I take the test and I have the gene, then I am going to be worried all the time if I choke or stutter that I'm developing the disease. I'd rather not know and just let faith and God handle it. Ha ha, silly Lucy. God is dead. I'm sorry, gang. I'm sorry, I had to. They all agreed, especially Anne. She really felt like Lucy was making the right decision, and instead of expressing that feeling, we're just gonna have it told to us. These descriptions are really leaping off the page. Lucy was confident in her decision, but was still in a bit of denial of her mother's disease. She just couldn't accept it. But she wasn't going to say anything. This was something she needed to battle herself. On May 20, the family returned home to Tennessee with heavy hearts. Will had to return to Washington for commitments with the football team. I'm not saying that name. And Lucy stayed at home. She had taken the semester off after graduation to take care of her mother, as we previously established. She also knew becoming a Swedish princess in the not-too-distant future was going to need her attention. She and the rest of the family were getting ready to fight and deal with the diagnosis of Anne. They had to stay together and be strong. Thomas was beside himself in pain for his wife, and Anne was beginning to fall in a deep depression with her health as the culprit. Do you feel like you're really there? Again with the well, in Crystal Smith's defense this time, it's already been established that Will started to play for the Washington football team. I'm not going to say the name. The Washington Racists. This is how we know Crystal is an American. Pretty much. The neurologist prescribed antidepressants for her to deal with everything. Thomas was put on medicine by his doctor, too. Okay. Lucy, on the other hand, was not. Yeah, Super Dark, this is, like, really heavy shit, but, like, we're not... like, I don't feel like I'm there. I feel like I'm just an observer because we're just being bombasted with fucking descriptions of what's going on instead of actually being told what's going on. For the love of Christ, this is not how you write, Crystal Smith. I mean, Crystal Smith's mother did have ALS. From what I understand, she's dead now, so she had it. But I really cannot feel for something so traumatizing because I really cannot relate because I have no sympathy for Lucy. This is accidental existential horror. Yeah, pretty much. And, like, this isn't, like, a stylistic choice. Like, this is just bad writing. Anyway, enough of my rant. We're reading chapter 32. That was actually a pretty short chapter. We're not even 20 minutes in yet. Okay. May 19th, chapter 32. This woman is doing everything to let out her feelings but stopping halfway through. Pretty much. May 19, 2015, Home Palace. Isak's phone rings really late into the night. He sees that Lucy is FaceTiming him. He realizes she wouldn't be calling him this late unless something was wrong. Hage. Because again, Crystal Smith thinks there's a hard J in the Swedish language. He says quickly into the phone. He sees Lucy on the camera just sobbing. Lucy, what's wrong? The sobbing just continues. Babe, please talk to me. Is it your mom? Lucy nods her head, and Isak notices how puffy and red her eyes are. He knows she's been crying for a while before she even called him. It's ALS. Oh, I'm so sorry, Isak says. Can anything be done? What can I do to help? Nothing can be done, Isak. She's dying. I can't handle this. I can't lose my mama. I just can't. 3 exclamation points. As you all know, excessive use of punctuation to try and express emotion is really a pet peeve of mine because it really is very, very excessive and not that professional. What about here in Sweden? I know that your FDA has regulations on treatments. Maybe there are things here in Sweden that can be done to help her. Even if we were there, Isak, we can't afford treatments like that. We are already paying out of pocket for the PET scan that the insurance said wasn't necessary and refused to pay for. I know this is off topic, but I'm saying this because Crystal Smith liked the right-wing talking point on Twitter yesterday. But this is why we need Medicare for all. This is why we need nationalized health care. So you won't be going practically bankrupt in order to understand what the fuck's actually going on with your mother, Lucy. Money is not an issue. I will cover it all. Oh, let me check with my father's doctors. They are the best in Sweden to see if they know of anything that can be done. Oh, God. The SI friend just saying, oh God, she's a Republican. They have that in Sweden, don't they? Yes, they do have, nationalized insurance in Sweden, if I recall correctly. I envy that. Actually, okay. I have a funny story. I mean, kind of funny, but also kind of depressing. They wouldn't need to pay out of pocket, the doctors can handle it. I mean, but the question is that because Lucy and her family are not Swedish citizens yet, would they still be covered by that nationalized insurance? Anyway, funny story, kind of funny, also kind of tragic. This happened back in, like, February, I think. So, I was having dinner with my family, and we were discussing the idea of Medicare for all, which, as you all know, I am for because, you know, every other developed country has it, and we already spend a buttload too much money on defense, so why not actually increase the welfare of your population? You know, you say that you love America, but you clearly don't love Americans if you turn the other way when people are put into bankruptcy because of medical debt. So, my father, who gets his health insurance through his work, and by extension, my brother and I get health insurance through it. My dad did not necessarily agree with the idea of Medicare for All because he didn't want to lose his own insurance through work. The next day, my dad texts me while I'm at work, asking me if one of my doctors, not going to say which doctor, okay, my psychiatrist, he asked if my psychiatrist would be covered by other insurances or not because, as it turns out, that day my dad's work announced that they would be changing insurance providers, effective in a couple months, which meant my dad would not be able to see the doctor he had seen for over a decade anymore because said doctor would not be covered by the new insurance plan. And I had to change psychiatrists as well because the psychiatrist I was seeing at the time would not be covered by the new plan. My point is, I remember thinking, you know what could have prevented this? If we all had nationalized health insurance. So if you want to know what it's like living in, like, Texas, that's pretty much what it's like. Anyway, yeah, that's my kind of funny, kind of depressing story. Continuing. Lucy just sobs even more. Isak realizes there is nothing he can say at that moment to make her feel better. He knows the best thing for him to do is to just stay on the line with her. He lets her cry and is there if she needs to say anything. Say something, I'm giving up on you. The most important thing about being in a relationship is the support given to one another, and sometimes that support is just staying on the line for 2 hours until the other person falls asleep. Is Crystal Smith projecting something here? Do you think that, she felt very, very lonely at this time, so she just wrote the most important thing about being in a relationship is yada yada yada? You think that was the case, gang? Vote now on your phones! That's exactly what Isak did. A few hours later, I thought it was still late at night, Isak knocks on the office door of his father. His father's office door, you dolt. He enters his father's office, brought to you by the Department of Redundancy Department, as he is reading his daily briefings from the government. Hi, Isak. Yes, I don't think the story is anything except projecting. I mean, yeah, and Crystal Smith said that, I based the character of Lucy off of many people I knew in high school and college. It's like, okay, I can see Lucy's appearance being based off of someone. I can see her half Quebecois descent being based off of someone. But this personality just lives and breathes Crystal Smith. I voted DM. Okay. Hi, Isak. Hi, Papa. Can you call your doctors in for me? Okay, now it's reading like someone who thinks she understands how royal bureaucracy works but doesn't. Why? Is there something wrong? Are you sick? No, Papa. It's Lucy. What's wrong with Lucy? Isak, did you get her pregnant? I love how he just went on to that assumption. Did you get her pregnant, son? You know that Republicans save themselves for marriage, or at least they claim to. Crystal Smith is a Republican, thus I feel justified in making fun of her work. The media will have a field day. Damn it, Papa! No! Lucy's mother, has ALS. I want to talk to your doctors to see if there is anything that can be done here in Sweden. And no, don't fret, it won't cost you a penny. I'll pay out of my own pocket. If for her, something can be done. Carl Gustav feels and looks immediately guilty. Son, did you impregnate her across the Atlantic? Imagine if he just, sent his sperm to her and she just, inserted the vial into her vagina. That would be an interesting story, though. I would live for that story. Son, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have... Shouldn't have what? Shouldn't have made that assumption? Yeah. I'll call the doctor. When did you find out about Anne, Lucy's mother? Early this morning. Lucy called me and was bawling her eyes out. I stayed on the phone with her until she finally fell asleep. The king smiles and says, You are your mother's son. Isak smiles back and thanks his father for calling the doctor, not doctors, to the palace. As Isak begins to leave his office, his father calls out to him. Oh, I'm sure some people do that. Yeah, I'm sure, but the Prince of Sweden? Come on! Come on! Oh, and Isak? Yes, Papa? If there is something that can be done, I'll pay for any treatment. It's the least I can do for my son's future bumfuck mother-in-law, who will be a part of this family just as Iwa and Eva are. Who the fuck is Eva? Is that Chris O'Neill's mother? Because I know Iwa is Daniel's mother. I'm guessing Eva is Chris's mother. And Sophia's mom, Marie, will be in Jude. Thank you for that incredibly important exposition. I'm sure that will be mucho useful. If Crystal writes a wish fulfillment fic about her mom survives thanks to a Swedish prince boyfriend, I'm going to sing it to levels of depression the world has never seen. Oh, I hope it does not go that route. Okay. I would forgive this story if... Jesus Christ, how can I word this? I can barely keep... You're asking too much of us. Why? Because of Eva? I'm going to just assume Eva is Chris O'Neill's mother until otherwise specified. Anyway. I sincerely hope this isn't a woman in her mid to late 20s writing a wish fulfillment fan fiction to say that her mom was cured from ALS or whatever ALS equivalent disease is, because Lucy happens to be the fiance of the Prince of Sweden, and everyone falls head over heels for her and does her bidding. Except for, the losers. That is a very, very immature way to cope with someone's passing. To just write a fic where it's like, oh, she lives thanks to the Prince of Sweden, the Prince of Svenska! I believe this chapter was written in 2017, which meant Crystal would have been, 26 years old when she wrote this. I'm 20. My grandma is slowly dying from a neurological disorder herself, and I wouldn't do this because that's a terrible way to cope with something so tragic. It's it's denial. It's denial in its most basic form. Crystal Smith, you're 26. Why are you writing fan fiction where your mother could potentially live? If you if Lucy's mother survives because of a miracle initiated by the Swedish royal family, I am going to be very upset. I'm sorry if I sound really harsh here. It's just this this is not a good way to cope with someone's passing. Isak just walks over and hugs his father, and this time Isak is the one crying. Thank you, Papa. Later that day. This is literally the only relatable emotion this fic manages to make. Tragedy. Well, y'all are here to increase your misery. How about that? Later that day, the doctor arrives to Drycold Palace to meet with Isak. Carl Gustav and Sylvia wanted to attend the meeting as well. The king walks in first. Good afternoon, Dr. Lundqvist, and shakes his hand. Sylvia then follows in, as does Isak. They shake his hand too. Hello, your majesties, your royal highness, Dr. Lundqvist, not Lundqvist, Lundqvist, says as he bows. What can I do for you? Are one of you ill? No, we are all quite well. However, my son, Isaac's girlfriend's mother, has been diagnosed with ALS in the United States. We called you here today to discuss this under the highest secrecy. As far as anyone knew outside the family, Isaac and Lucy were still not engaged, as already established. Understood, the doctor replies. Your Royal Highness, could you give me some more details about her diagnosis, if you have them? Please call me Isak, sir. Her mother, Anne, has been having symptoms for quite a while. She has issues chewing food, swallowing, and speaking. The family traveled to the Mayo Clinic, which I'm sure you have heard of. No. A lot of people in my friend base are not American, and none of them have heard of the Mayo Clinic. In Minnesota, the best doctors in the U.S. are... No, the best doctors in the U.S. are not in the Mayo Clinic. If you're traveling to the United States to get treatment, you go to the Texas Medical Center. I might be biased because I live in the city the Texas Medical Center is in, but there's a reason why it's considered the world's largest medical center. And after a series of tests, she was diagnosed with bulbar ALS a few days ago. The doctor's face falls as Isak describes the symptoms and diagnosis. Dr. Lundqvist, not Lundqvist, Lundqvist, is there anything that can be done here in Sweden for her? Do we have any treatments that have not yet been approved in the United States that she could go through? Sylvia has been watching the doctor as Isak spoke. She put her arm around her son as Dr. Lundqvist, not Lundqvist, Lundqvist. For the love of God, Crystal Smith, pick one or the other. Mayo Clinic isn't a place to get treated, usually. Says something about the part of the country you're from when the, best quality medical service you think of is the Mayo Clinic. Just go to the Texas Medical Center. Most medical places in the U.S. tend to be in D.C. or Boston. Well, yeah, D.C. and Boston are both also really good, but, Texas Medical Center. It's literally just a downtown with hospitals. It has the MD Anderson Cancer Center, Texas Children's, and... It's pretty much just like a large conglomerate of hospitals. Your Majesties and Your Royal Highness, I am terribly sorry that she has been diagnosed with such a dreadful disease. As far as treatments go, unfortunately, there is nothing we have here in Sweden that is not in the United States. Johns Hopkins is considered to be one of the best medical hospitals in the world. It is in Baltimore. It's also huge. I'll take your word on that, Ghost Eye. I'm so very sorry to have to give you this disappointing news. Research is still continuing into the disease, but this version that her mother has, well, scientists and researchers are still learning about it. Sylvia speaks next. Doctor, what more can you tell us about the disease? Admittedly, I don't know much about it. In the simplest terms, what is it? How much time does Anne have? This type directly impacts the upper part of the body, which is the tongue, throat, jaws, and, eventually, the lungs. In regular cases of ALS, this is the final stage the patient goes through. However, in Anne's case, her disease has begun where it will end. This is extremely progressive. As far as time goes, there's no sure determination, but for most calculations, I would say no more than a year. The room falls silent after this. The king then steps up to shake the doctor's hand. Thank you for coming in and your insight. If you do find out about any treatments, please let me know as soon as you can. The doctor bows and leaves the palace. I mean, what else can I say? There wasn't a sudden miracle treatment, so I can't really get mad at that now, can I? June 10, 2015, Stockholm Airport. Isak is waiting at baggage claim on Lucy to come through customs. When she comes out the steps, he can see the strain and pain in her eyes. He walks up and gives her a hug and kiss on the forehead. He grabs her bags, and they head to the car. They don't say much on the way to Haga Palace, where they will be staying during the wedding week. As soon as they... Oh yeah, by the way, Poo and Sofia are getting married, so, we get to see that in this fanfic in this bit. Won't that be fun, kids? As soon as they walk through the door, Estelle comes bouncing down the steps. Auntie Lucy! Auntie Lucy! Lucy bends down and picks Estelle up. She gives her a huge hug as tears form back in her eyes. She sits Estelle back down, and Estelle notices right away. Auntie Lucy, what's wrong? Victoria steps in and says, Estelle, darling, Lucy's mommy is very sick, so she's upset about that. Estelle grabs Lucy's leg, and Lucy bends down to her. Estelle puts her to another hug and runs away. Victoria helps Lucy get her things to her room. As she's talking to Lucy about her dress fitting the next afternoon, Estelle runs into the room carrying a teddy bear. Auntie Lucy, here! Estelle says with a smile. Estelle, what is that? Oh god, this is gonna murder my throat. This is my demo reel for voice acting! This is my teddy bear that Mommy gave me when I was feeling sad when I was little. I want you to have it. Sleep with it. It helps me sleep. It will help you too. I promise! That is... I mean, all babies are demons. Oh, Estelle, you're so sweet. I can't take your teddy bear. What if you get scared or sad tonight? I won't be, but if I do, I'll just come in here with you! You know, I suddenly wonder about how many notes these chapters get. We'll look at the notes for this chapter once we're done with it. Actually, Mommy, Yes, Estelle, Victoria asks. Can Lucy and I have a sleepover? Can I stay in here tonight to keep her from being sad? Someone please clip that. Victoria looks to Lucy, and Lucy smiles at Estelle. Well, if it's okay with Lucy, you can, Estelle. Estelle looks up to Lucy with the sweetest brown eyes and smile. Lucy bends out to Estelle. I would love that, Estelle. A sleepover with my little niece sounds like just what the doctor ordered. Yay! 5 exclamation points, I'm assuming. Holy piercing cries! Chapter 33. Princess Estelle undergoes an exorcism. And I am officially on Sapper's watch list. Sapper's. As she runs out the door to Isak. Uncle Isak! I'm stealing Lucy! 3 exclamation points. Hashtag Swedish Royal Love. Hashtag Royal Fanfic. Hashtag Royal Fanfic Collection. Hashtag Royal Fanfic Center. 12 notes! None of them are of comments. Okay. L. Okay, let's read chapter 33, which has, let's see how many notes it has before we continue. It has 10 notes! Golly! Chapter 33, Hag Palace, June 12, 2015. Lucy and Victoria are sitting in the family room watching television. I'm guessing Daniel has yeeted off because he hasn't shown up yet. To keep her mind off of everything back home, Lucy was asking Victoria about funny stories growing up with Isak, as well as little things she should know when attending a royal wedding. But she attended Madeline's wedding. ¿Qué? Då steht es ska. Victoria starts laughing. Has Isak told you about the time when he set the alarms off in the palace? What? No! What happened? Lucy replies. Well, Mama and Papa were on a state visit to Germany, and we were all asleep, or so we thought. Isak was about 3 at this time and was very mischievous. Cat Poo, Madeline, and I were all in our rooms asleep. Our nanny had put Isak in his room. Ever the curious child, he woke up around 3 in the morning and toddled, is that even a word, out of bed. He wandered into Mama and Papa's room and started playing. Uh-oh, Lucy interrupts. Uh-oh is right. He noticed the white button on the nightstand of the bed. He remembered that Mama and Papa had told him never to push it unless it was an emergency. But that night, well, morning technically, he couldn't resist. So he pushed it, and you see, it's a silent alarm, so he didn't hear any noise. So he just kept pushing and pushing it, which only made the security scramble faster. Lucy is trying not to go into hysterical laughter, imagining a taller Isak pushing an emergency button over and over for fun. What a wonderful audience she has. I doubt that's how palaces work. I doubt that too. I mean, if there's an emergency button that summons security, I would imagine it would be less accessible. The security rushed into the room to have nothing. They checked out each of our rooms, and then noticed Isak was missing. Drottningholm went into DEFCON 1? That's an Americanism, Crystal Smith. Swedes would not have any idea what DEFCON is. Fun fact, I actually did something like that IRL. Yeah, but was it in a palace super dark? Was it a button in your parents' bedroom that would summon security? CP, Lenny, I'm guessing that's Madeline, and I jumped up and went to searching. CP was threatening to kick the jerk's butt, and Madeline was in hysterics in the corner. I was ready to pull my hair out, telling Capu he didn't harm someone because he was too little, all the while trying to calm Lenny, Madeline down. Where was Isak? Lucy asked. Oh, I'm getting there. CP went and got his toy sword. Capu was like 13 by then. He played with swords at 13? That's lame. Began racing around the house to fight for his brother. I tried to think straight while dragging Madeline back to her room to play with some dolls. Then I got to thinking. Isak always runs Papa's office and hides in the compartment of his desk when he gets scared. So I raced to Papa's office to hear nothing. Nothing? Zip! Nada. But I went to the compartment to check, and well, I was in fear that he wasn't there, because Isak was never quiet. I opened it to find Isak fast asleep. I woke him up, and he started crying. I asked Hime what was wrong, and he said to me, Are the big bad guys wrong? Fear overwhelmed me. I'm playing with swords at 24. Well, I mean, you're doing it in the context of LARPing. Cat poo is not the LARPing type. Unless you count trying to perform a pseudo job as Prince LARPing. Then I asked him, What big bad guys? Does someone come into your room? And he shook his head no. Then he confessed he pushed the button in Mama and Papa's room. Victoria explains as she tries not to laugh too hard. Then the big bad guys were running in the hall toward their room, and I got scared. Are they going to take me to jail? He asked me. I calmed him down and alerted everyone that it was okay. He was in so much trouble when Mama and Papa got home, Lucy says. I'm going to guess he never pushed that button again. You guessed right. Victoria, Lucy asks. Yes, she responds. I wasn't nervous before, but this time I am about going to the pre-wedding dinner and wedding. I guess it is because I'm going to be in the family soon. It's a lot of pressure, and I am so afraid I'm going to slip up and say something. Then it will end up in all the papers and anger your dad. Don't worry about that. It will all be fine. My dad is already dead inside. Just remember to hold your head up and smile to the photographers. Ignore the questions they shout at you. You will be arriving with Daniel and me for some ungodly reason. So it shouldn't be too bad tonight. And don't worry, even if you say something to some of the other royals, they are going to say a word to the media, unless if it's... Actually, no, Mary would not snitch to the media. She cares too much about herself. We're all good at keeping secrets like that, Victoria tells her as she pats her shoulder. They get ready for the pre-wedding dinner. Isak and Lucy travel with Victoria and Daniel, who has respawned, to the ferry that will take them to the private dinner. Before they arrive, Isak looks at her and says, Right foot, left foot, breathe, repeat. Lucy smiles and says, Pat Summit. I love that saying of hers. Just keep it in the back of your mind, Isak says as he kisses her hand. Oh, God, this is nonsense. Hag Palace, June 13, 2015. It was early morning as Isak shook Lucy awake. Babe, it's time to give it up. Long day ahead. She grunts and says, 5 more minutes. My head hurts. Well, I told you to stop at 3 glasses of wine, but nope, you had to add that shot. Wait! Shh. You are talking too loud. Isak laughs as the housekeeper brings in breakfast for the two of them to eat. Lucy rises up. Breakfast in bed? Well, I figured he needed the royal treatment, Isak says as he gives a tender kiss. After finishing breakfast, Isak goes downstairs with Daniel to go for a short run. Lucy is in the master bedroom with Victoria getting her hair done. Remember what Isak told you last night, so just breathe today. It will all be fine, Victoria says softly. She also gives Lucy an aspirin and hot tea. The hangover cure! Trust me, this tea can cure any hangover. I have used it many times before. And to be honest, if Daniel and I hadn't been trying for a baby, I'd have probably been in your shoes. I I thought they conceived by then. Not gonna delve well too deep in it. Oh, I can't wait for Estelle to have a sibling, Lucy says. And I can't wait for Estelle to have another cousin, Victoria says with a wink. The second cousin was born 2 days later. Why what, Albert? Why what? Oh, that tiara looks gorgeous on you, Lucy exclaims as the hairdresser puts it into place. Well, thank you. Soon you'll be wearing one too. I fail to see the connection between the two things there. I'm assuming that what Victoria is trying to say here is that, honestly, babe, if I wasn't trying for another baby right now, I'd probably be hungover too, considering who's marrying into this bullshit family. Although, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm American, and therefore I am a Yank. But, the drinking alcohol while pregnant thing, is not drinking alcohol while pregnant as, commonplace and, strictly self-enforced in Europe as it is in America? Please answer my question. I am desperate. It's common here. They don't have signs at the registers warning about it, at least. Y'all don't have, like, those... Hang on, let me grab my bottle of wine so I can read you on the warning. Okay, so this is on the wine I currently have. Government warning. 1. According to the Surgeon General, women should not drink alcoholic beverages during pregnancy because of the risk of birth defects. 2. Consumption of alcoholic beverages impairs your ability to drive a car or operate machinery and may cause health problems. That's what it is. Enjoy responsibly. So, make of that what you will. Oh gosh, I don't think a tiara would look good on my head. Victoria tells her hairdresser to put on the Laurel wreath tiara on Lucy so she can see, because apparently she just has that tiara on standby. Victoria beams when she sees it. Lucy, you're going to look perfect in a tiara. Damn right, they hear as Isak walks in. She would look good in a cheap tiara from a children's dress-up kit. Which, ironically, was what Sofia's wedding tiara looked like. I'll prove it to you. Look at that! It looks like it was made of plastic! Looks so bad! A cheap German rum just has a recipe for an equally shitty cocktail on it. And my best barrel of Lambrusco doesn't even have a % in it. Fuck, I need to visit y'all in continental Europe. Y'all seem whack. Anyway, this is what Sofia's tiara looked like. Does it look like a fancy tiara to you? Does it look quality, mates? I'm going to take your silence as a no. Lucy turns around and smiles at Isak. He leans... So I'm guessing it did not look quality. He leans down and gives her a kiss. Then he walks over to Victoria, who is putting on her jewelry, puckering his lips. What the hell are you doing? Victoria asks. I just thought you felt left out, Isak says. Incest subtext. Incest subtext. The shape reminds me of a mermaid tiara. I just thought you felt left out, Isak says. Victoria rolls her eyes. You're ridiculous. Don't worry, I was just teasing. Victoria snickers. I know, I was just annoying you right back. Okay. Lucy finishes getting ready, without the tiara, and arrives at the church before Isak and his family. Isak was going to be his brother's best man, so he would be arriving with Carl Philip, cat poo. After they walked down the aisle, Isak found Lucy in the crowd and winked. Her heart fluttered. The wedding was beautiful. Yep. Y'all have seen the music video. Actually, I'm going to play it now. There we go. This was the wedding. Does anyone here, does anyone in this wedding look happy? Lucy, the wedding was beautiful, and when Sofia walked down the aisle, Lucy almost started crying watching Cat Poo's reaction. She always loved to watch the groom instead of the bride. Their face says it all. Pure love was all over Carl Philip's face, in the form of, female jizz. As he watched his bride come toward him, Isak, on the other hand, only had eyes for Lucy. He wished that it was their wedding day and made a mental note to talk to his father about announcing the engagement soon. Okay. I still gotta run to the store, so we're gonna finish this video and then I'm gonna finish for the day. I'll turn the volume up so y'all can see it. The wedding was beautiful. The wedding. This. It looks like a discount wedding. Like, oh my god. Everyone just looks sad. Like, fuck. And it's there's Carl Gustav, Sylvia, Victoria, Daniel, and in case you forgot what they all looked like, Daniel's the himbo, the hot one, in my opinion, because I have weird tastes. It's like a made-for-TV movie soap opera. It is, it really is. When you're too in love to let it go. But if you never try. Carl Gustav just like slowly swaying as if he has to take a piss, but he can't like leave. Oh yeah, and I forgot Madeline's daughter, Leonore, I think is her name, was like screaming and crying before the actual wedding began. And it's like, it's just everyone's internal reaction to this bullshit, because would you really want a woman who potentially did softcore porn while underage, reality TV star that posed naked with a snake and might have stolen credit for founding a charity to marry into such a bumfuck family? Weekend deal for stimulus package hits major roadblock over GOP plan to limit Federal Reserve. We live in such a fucking dystopia. Oh my god. Capitalism is a death cult. Remember that, kids. There's Mary! I mean, these events basically are just like televised shows to boost the family's ratings. I mean, yeah, fair. So, Albert, still want to meet up with me when I ultimately travel to Sweden to troll the Bernadottes? You're always welcome to come along with me. And hopefully Rocky. I don't know, I'm American, so I need a chaperone. Chaperone? I don't care. Potato. I love how, like, the woman with the fan is just, like, absolutely just trying not to laugh at this nonsense. We have a huge gold statue. Yes, we're gonna dunk slime on it. We're gonna dunk Nick slime on them. Yes! Nickelodeon slime for the win! Dude, I feel so bad for everyone there. Me too. No one looks like they want to be there. Really, I'm only, like, talking over this much so SVT doesn't, like, try and take this down. They probably won't, but I want to play it safe. Like, they just have to sit there. Okay, it's done. Alright, good night, gang. I love you all. Thank you for enabling this bullshit.
Show you.